Hello, 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 and welcome back to A Little Birdie Told You. I'm your host, Kristen Knight.
And I'm your host, Kelli Knight.
Grief. Now, we're going to be talking about grief today, which is a little bit of a heavy topic than most of our topics, but specifically, we're going to be talking about grief in relationships, so breakup grief. And you're probably like, what's breakup grief? What is that? But sometimes the hardest grief is actually grieving a person that's still alive and is still maybe a part of the world that you have to actually encounter here and there. So we're going to talk about how that might feel, because that's kind of a complex feeling, I feel, entirely, compared to losing a loved one or losing someone in your life, which is still a very heavy topic to cover. But today we're going to be talking about grieving a breakup. What do you think the key piece of advice is in grieving a breakup initially? Like, what do you think you initially feel when you feel, okay, this person has now exited my life and they're no longer a part of my life and they once were?
I think accepting that, like, they're gone, and I don't want to say, like, oh yeah, just accepting that they're gone, but also just in general, not having any contact with them, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, the no contact thing's like very important, which I think it is. Like, as time went on, I was like, oh, it doesn't matter, whatever. But I think just not talking to them in general gives you more time to just heal and like not sit there and run back to them and play games. You know what I'm saying?
Like, implement a boundary. I think that's definitely something that I would put in place, and a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
You notice initially they start blocking you or they don't text you anymore. And that being cut off so instantly and quickly like that can sometimes take a toll on the individual feeling it. On the other end, they feel this desire to talk to the person because that was someone who was once a part of their life, and now they're stripped away from that person. And I feel that can cause some emotional conflict within you. I feel that you start wondering, is there the potential for them to come back? And if you reach out, would they come back? But I think you actually ultimately have to just understand that you have to let that person go. When you love something, you have to let it go, and even understand that if you don't they truly didn't love you or value you, you still have to let them go. And I think you need to encounter those emotions.
Yeah, because I think just letting it go from like the start that they let you go, it's just like, let it all go and just start now.
I think a lot of us, though, focus on the moments that brought us the most joy in that relationship.
Yeah.
I think we tend to forget about the negative. Like, I think we don't think, oh, they actually did this, these are the red flags. Because I always say this, and I know I've said this to you before, and I always say, sometimes you don't miss the person that they were at the end of the relationship, but you miss the moments that you had together. You miss the feeling. You don't miss that person. Because I think people change sometimes at the end of a relationship, because there is that friction. There's the ending approaching, and they're starting to feel that friction. And they've changed as a person, and maybe that's why this relationship came to an end. And some of us don't acknowledge that. We tend to acknowledge the things that we miss about the person and the joy they once brought us, but maybe they didn't bring us that joy at the end of the relationship, and we tend to focus on the good rather than the bad, and maybe there is some flaws that you actually need to consider, instead of focusing on, oh, they brought me so much joy and this retrospect, and they did this for me and they did this, but also what else did they do to you? Because they didn't value you enough to keep you around now, did they?
I think a lot of us sit there and like the second you get in a relationship, you notice all the good things about them. But, maybe during the relationship that you had with them, like your friends or just people around you were like, oh, this person's not good for you. And I'm sure a lot of people say that stuff just because they're fake. But, maybe if they were right, you know what I'm saying? You never notice it until after it's all done and they're out of your life. You're like, and people just show their true colors at the end of like a relationship. Like, they'll just pour it all at you and you're like, whoa, we're like, who were you?
Did I even know you?
Did I even actually know the real you? You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
sometimes think about that, because you notice with a lot of relationships, maybe they didn't end terribly, but they had this aspect to them that did not end in a positive note, where maybe the person really hurt you. The way they did things, the way they ended things, it really hurt you, and it brought you to this level where you felt like you didn't understand that. Maybe the things they said or the things they did, and it just showed they truly didn't value you. Maybe there's things you found out at the end of the relationship and it really proved they didn't value me as a person. So maybe think about that. And I think that's why the grieving process can be so complicated, is because you're going back and forth between, I hate them, but I love them and I miss them. And people are telling you, oh, you deserve better. I know plenty of us have probably heard that. You deserve better. Oh, someone better is going to come around. But at this point, you're thinking that there's not going to be someone better.
Yeah, and I would say another thing, though, too. There's those friends, like I've noticed a lot of girls are like, oh, well, but like, like girls would be like, oh, well, if he comes back, like I'd run to him and stuff. And then you have the friends that like sit there and they're like, oh, yeah, go back to him. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't care actually how you're doing mentally. You know what I'm saying? If that person's actually good for you.
I mean, this is a side note, but if someone, you know, I always say if you put something very valuable on a table, right? And if you don't keep it close to your heart, if something's valuable to you and you treasure it with all your heart,
you're going to want to keep it the closest to you as possible. You're not going to want to let that
You're
going to
make sure that it's in with your sight and within your arms and within your hands, right? You're not going to let anyone have access to it. The moment you place that and you say, you know what, I'm just going to set it down for a second. I don't really value this.
Somebody else grab that.
You're going to let someone else grab it.
You shouldn't let that person give you another chance.
Don't give that person another chance at all, because they're proving to you that they don't value as much to keep you close and near and dear to their heart. They just leave you up for grabs, and someone else can just swoop by and grab you, and that's really what happens. And then that's when the person has a lot of regret, because they realize, I just let go of something that was very valuable to my heart, and now it's gone. But it really wasn't that value to the person. So don't go running back to somebody. That's a side note. Just don't do that.
I think another thing though is I know some people are like, oh, we only live once, why just not give them another chance, right? But you have this whole entire world that there's so many different people that it's like you will meet somebody better than that. You know what I'm saying? That's not going to want to just let you go.
And when I feel you're in this state, you're in denial that the person's even gone from your life. And I mean, maybe they're not actually physically gone, but mentally they're gone, emotionally they're gone, they've detached from you, right? So you're feeling all these emotions and you're in a vulnerable state where you would run back to them because you know nothing else better than them. You've never witnessed anything better than them. And I'm not saying people are better than other people, but I'm saying some people are better suited for you and your emotional needs and the things you desire in a relationship. And sometimes somebody's going to meet that for you. And that person couldn't meet those needs for you or couldn't do those things for you. And you're going to find somebody that will, somebody who's going to kind of click with you compared to that person. And you kind of have to accept that and accept that that person is no longer in your life for a reason. I always say this, and it's not something that's really cringy, because if you think about it, it's always true. Things happen for a reason. People leave you for a reason because sometimes they're not meant to be in this next chapter with you. And maybe they will come back in the future. But I also, like I said, we don't always agree with that going back. It depends on how they left you. It depends on the context of the situation. But people are not always meant to be with you forever. They're not always meant to be on this ride with you forever. So you have to understand that when someone leaves your life, you just have to allow it to happen. Let them go.
Something that just came across my mind that I heard once was, you know, when you're riding a bike for the first time, you have training wheels, right? But when you take the training wheels off, somebody that, you know, loves you has to push you and let you go. You know what I'm saying? And you might get hurt, right? So it's like, you kind of just
We've talked about this before, but sometimes you have to be equipped for other things in your life. And sometimes one relationship actually leads to the next relationship and they equip you. Sometimes they're stepping stones.
They're like learning lessons that prepare you for the future and get you ready for something.
And I know some people will look back and they say, you know, I was in a relationship, and they say, oh, well, I thought that relationship at the time was the greatest thing ever. I think
that's what we all think.
You know, I thought we were amazing. And then you go on and you're like, we did not have a good relationship at all. And I thought we did. And people start to think that. And then they look back and say, well, that relationship was a stepping stone for the next relationship. And I'm not saying all relationships are that way, but I'm saying if this has happened to you, think about it that way. Maybe this is a stepping stone for something new. And I'm sure if you're at this beginning stage of breakup grief, you're not thinking about, oh, the next relationship, what's coming next.
And I know a lot of people are always automatically, they're like, oh, well, maybe if I just get in another relationship, automatically once they you know, I don't even know,
they exit your life.
Yeah, you're supposed to jump into a new relationship because they think that, you know, it's supposed to help you heal, when really, you know, you should never use somebody just to let you heal. You know what I'm saying? I think you should just focus on yourself and really heal and you know, just
the healing process is distinct for everyone. Everyone is going to go through their different healing journey. Some people are going to heal a lot faster than others, and some people are going to heal a lot slower than others. They're going to have their days. And I feel like some days you could still have your days. Even, you know, a couple months from now, you could be fine and feel you're fine, and then something just comes up and it reminds you of the person, or you see maybe another relationship that resembles yours and maybe it comes up again. And you might feel that grieving process all over again. And you just take one step at a time. I think the worst thing to do, though, in the healing process, and this is my piece of advice, if you're going through a healing process, even though everyone's healing process is different, please do not suppress your emotions. Because when you take all those emotions and you suppress them and you say, I'm not going to feel it,
it's all going to come out at once.
It's all going to come bubbling up, and it's going to hurt because you're going to have all this emotion just bubbling up to the surface. It's going to be projected on other people. It's going to hurt yourself in the process. You're better off feeling the emotion. Allow the emotion to just drain through you. Cry it out, you know, feel the emotion for a few days. Go through the, you know, ups and downs and the roller coaster of it, and allow yourself to just feel what it feels like. But don't allow yourself to get caught up in the grief where it pulls you from your own life and your own interests. I think the best thing you can do is just invest in yourself, self-care, motivate yourself to do better. And sometimes, you know, thinking of it in this way, I am going to prove that person wrong, maybe prove to that person that I am still here, I'm still moving forward with my life. No matter if they want to be a part of my life, regardless if they're a part of my life, I'm still going to move forward and continue with my self-love journey and who I am as a person, because I love myself. And at the end of the day, that's who's really for you. And you have to prove that to yourself, but not prove it to other people. But sometimes, you know, implementing that mindset in your mind can motivate you. And I think at this time you need motivation like that. Like, I'm going to prove them wrong. They made a mistake, but don't do it out for them.
I think a way to go about it is the saying, you know, it's like, oh, well, you lived without them once before. So it's like, you can always live without them. You know what I'm saying? So don't sit there and, I'm not saying you can't listen to Kristen and be like, oh yeah, motivate yourself off of them, because you know, that will push you to do better things.
I feel like it pushes you to do better than you once were.
Yeah.
Don't be your past self, the self you were with them. Be somebody new, create a new version of yourself that, you know, can handle the pain and grows from the pain, but don't allow them to feel that you are reacting to it. Like, don't allow them to see a reaction from you, see that it hurt you, because if it did hurt you, don't reveal that to the world. Because everyone likes to reveal it to the world. I've seen it so much where people post on social media, oh my gosh, I miss him so much, I wish he would come back. Do you think a guy wants to come back if you're saying that? No, he doesn't want to come back if you're saying I miss him. He knows you just got a reaction out of you. He's probably sitting back with his boys or his friends or whoever, even by himself, laughing like, wow, I got a reaction out of this girl. This girl's devastated that I left her.
Yeah, and the same thing goes for, like, then they know that you're still all wrapped up on them, and that doesn't look good on your part.
No, it doesn't. It makes it seem like all your emotion was invested in them and not 1 ounce of it is invested in yourself. You need to take all that emotion and invest it in yourself. And sometimes that's why I say, if you're somebody who maybe has that mindset, use it to your advantage as fuel, propelling you forward, not holding you back. Don't allow all these emotions to become a heavy burden on you and weigh you down and say, he hurt me, what did I do wrong? And you're comparing yourself to other people, especially if they jump into a new relationship. I think that definitely can put us in a spiral where we're comparing ourselves to someone else and saying, well, what do they have that I don't have? And you shouldn't do that to yourself. Don't allow somebody who didn't value you and allow the value that they put on someone else, maybe that they don't even value themselves, to dictate how you feel about yourself. That's not how this should work in this case scenario. Do you agree? And I feel like, you know, it's a lot of emotion. You're going through a lot of different things, and maybe you might compare yourself a little bit, or maybe you might wonder, okay, what did I do wrong? And that's normal to think about that for a few days. Sometimes that's normal. Sometimes we just have to talk ourselves out of it, though. What are ways do you think that can kind of push you away from focusing on that person to focusing the energy on yourself?
I honestly would just say let go of, like, old habits, maybe. You know, maybe I wouldn't say, like, good things or bad things, but just maybe things that remind you of them. You know, maybe things that just bring you down and you're like, oh, you know, like I can't.
Changing routine.
Yeah, just change your routine. Even if it's just new things that you're completely trying new, just go for it.
I would get involved in things. Sometimes talking to people.
Keep yourself busy.
Definitely keep yourself busy. I think grieving something can't require you to sit in your room all alone every day, all day, and just think about that person. That's not a good way to get over a person. Because not only are you getting over a person, but you're also shedding this part of you that is now growing into a new person. A new person that is going to be out here in the world learning things and now experiencing new people and be open to that. I wouldn't be focused on finding a new person. I think that's completely wrong. Because I think that you're going to allow yourself to fall into a person and you're going to compare to the previous person that you were with. And not only that, I don't think that's the best motivation is to just jump into a next relationship. I think you need to focus on yourself, do some deep work, because you're going to grow as a person, not grow on and latch to someone else. We don't want to be a growth on someone else. We want to, you know, grow as our own individual, growing in life and moving forward, because we love ourselves, and put that love back into ourselves that that person didn't give us. Give ourselves the chance that they didn't give us to grow into this beautiful person that we can be. So get busy, get active, do things that are going to make you feel good about yourself. Maybe meeting new people, whether that's new friends, maybe talking to some of your closest friends. You know, sometimes we need someone to talk to. This isn't always a time where we can be alone. You know, going through grief, we want to talk to somebody that maybe understands that. So maybe talk to a person that you can confide in and they understand where you're coming from during this time. Maybe journal. I think that can be a nice thing. Journal your emotions. Maybe if you don't want to talk to somebody, journal your emotions down.
Because then you can just let it all out and you don't feel like you have to hold it in.
Another thing I heard, and I think this is a great idea, is writing a letter to them, letting them go. is sometimes you don't actually tell them these things, but you write a letter letting them go, revealing all the things that you feel and saying that I'm now going to let you go from my life. And sometimes I feel like this is a little bit at the end of a grieving process because you finally have come to the realization that maybe this person's not good for you.
Yeah.
But I think writing a little letter maybe is not a bad idea.
Not actually sending it to them.
Don't send it to them.
Don't actually send it.
And sometimes maybe not tell people that you wrote this letter, because then with your luck it might get sent to the person and then you might be a little like, oh, I probably shouldn't do it. So maybe you don't want to do that, but maybe, write it and like burn it. I've heard people do that too, where they like write it and rip it up like, this is it, this is done, we're moving on. Kind of like a symbolic thing where I'm leaving this person, leaving my past behind me, or writing a letter to your past. I would definitely just change up your routine though, overall. Like change the things that you do, not change everything about yourself, because I know sometimes people like to change everything about themselves. And I mean like change their hair and everything. And don't be too reckless.
The way I look at it though is if that makes you happy and that really does make you like completely let go of them, you do you.
Well, because sometimes people are like, oh, he loved me when I was a brunette and now I'm going to be a blonde.
You do you though. Like if that makes you happy and that like lets you heal faster.
I think so. I think if it makes you happy and it's something you're doing out of your own will, not out of that person controlling you, I think that great for you. You be your own person. If that helps you get over it, maybe looking at your hair every day reminds you of that person and you need ways to not remind you of that person, then that's a perfect example. Like I said, implement those boundaries. Don't stalk them. We don't do that. We don't stalk people. I always tell you that. Do not stalk your ex.
Yeah, because that's not
weird.
Even,
We're not
that's
doing
not
that.
even letting them go. That's just running right back. Like and being like, oh, I want to see what they're up to.
That's putting energy on them.
Exactly.
Do not put energy on them. Put energy onto yourself. Stop that.
Yeah.
Do not stalk them. Do not ask people what they're up to if they're dating someone new. Do not stare at them. Do not follow them. Do not do any of that. Do not put a tracker on them. We're not doing that. We're going to focus on ourselves. Okay. We're going to detour all that energy that we gave them and put it onto ourselves. You're going to call your energy back. And one thing I do believe, and I'll say this, is sometimes when you're in a relationship, and this is kind of a side note, but not really a side note, is they say when you're in a relationship, a guy gets more attractive or a girl gets more attractive when they're in a relationship, and they call it like the boyfriend-girlfriend effect. Sometimes you'll notice you made them attractive. Yeah. And then when you leave them, all of that stripped away from them because you brought that to the table for them. You brought that attractiveness to them. So when you leave them, you call all that energy back, okay? Yeah. And when all that energy is called back for you, you're going to notice, what happened to them?
Yeah, they're not very attractive.
Good thing that we left that relationship. Good thing I'm not a part of that relationship. You left me, but I am very happy that you left me. Yeah. That's what you kind of have to say, because you'll look back one day. And I'll tell you, this is a little bit of comfort. You'll look back. You're going to say, it was a blessing that they left me. It was a blessing in disguise. Maybe I didn't realize it at the time, but it was definitely a blessing that they left me, because look at them now. Yep. Look at them now. So just be in this mindset of what's meant to be is going to be for me. Focus on yourself and allow yourself to digest that things happen for a reason. And you'll realize that things happen for a reason. That person was taken out of your life for a reason. Another thing we like to mention is sometimes God or the universe heard conversations that you did not hear. You did not hear. You did not hear those conversations. Maybe that person was saying things about you, or that person
or maybe
felt,
even doing things.
Yeah, or maybe even doing things. And sometimes you're being protected. So sometimes rejection is redirection and protection. Remember that. You're being redirected away from that person for a reason. So just trust the process.